Hi, good night, each and every one of you. We are happy to have you here again, participating on the Cnfo's Leadership Institute. As you know, we have a 4-module session running, and we're on the 3rd module, storage and preservation. So thank you for being here. And the final session is this Thursday on marketing. So see you again on Thursday, the 28th. Sorry, this is the wrong. See you on August 4th, this Thursday. So
yes, this is the original flyer. Yeah.
Right. I want to call now, maybe if the chair is available to say hello. We have the chair of the Cnfo on the call, Mr. Adrian Laroda. Please, sir, can you come and say hi?
Good afternoon, everyone, or good evening, good afternoon, wherever you may be. Welcome again to this module of the Cnfo's Learning Institute. I will say that all of them have been very, very informative. And as we go into this session, it's even more informative because we're talking about processing and value added, which is important for all of us. I just want to welcome you and look forward to another successful session. Thanks and good night.
Wonderful, Chair. Thank you. Keegan, now it's up to you to take us through your PowerPoint presentation. We're all ears.
Thank you very much, Nadine and Mitch and Adrian. Tonight, and pleasant good night to each and everyone logged in so far, and those who have been able to commit the time from module 1, 2, and 3. And for the new ones who are just joining us today. So this module 3 we will cover storage and preservation, and we're just following the natural process of the channels from harvesting. We'll have some packaging in there as well. So that's what we will start off with today. So we would like to cover packaging of fish and fishery products, storage principles of icing and freezing, and also of dried fish, and we'll wrap it up with transportation. So basically, the common definition of what packaging is the science and the technology of enclosing your product for distribution, storage, sale, and use by the consumer. It also involves some level of design, evaluation, and even production. But there are some key differences in that the package itself is a physical entity. You know, in our case, it will be the fish or the fishery product, right? But there's also want to know what is packing, right? Which is how we the action of actually enclosing the product, the fishery product, either in a package or in some level of the different levels of packaging for sale, as we'll see later down. Now, let me take you through what is the role of packaging. So the main roles of packaging is protection, containment, promotion, presentation, and identification. When we say protection, we want to know that the package itself protects the product from physical, chemical, even biological agents, any type of adulteration of the package and contamination. You speak containment, it means like the package should assist with in terms of handling during distribution and display. Promotion, the package should have some type of communicator on the package itself, whether it be information or a window, right, to see the product. Presentation, this feature or this role, the package should add value to the product itself, right, and be attractive to the consumer. And finally, in terms of identification, we want to know that we could provide more information about the product itself. Some other objectives like in terms of the roll must be moisture proof. We don't want any loss of water, especially during frozen storage to get freezer burn, what we all aware of. We don't want the fishery product to become dry and tough. That will not be a good quality product. We want to limit oxidation as in terms of the moisture proofing. When low permeability, when we speak low permeability, we means the rate at which the packaging allows vapors, water vapors, or gases pass between the product and the atmosphere where it is being stored. We want a nice tight fit in terms of preventing moisture loss inside frozen storage. Loose packaging will allow moisture to evaporate, allow cold air in from the freezer. So you'll have condensation, you will have drying out as well. And we want some practical qualities. It must be sturdy, it must be strong. It must be inexpensive, all right, because there's a cost. And it should be able to receive a label on it. So we want that practicality as well. Let's talk about the some food packaging materials and the characteristics. Migration, taste and smell, neutral, barrier to moisture. But let me just explain the first one. Migration means that we don't want the packaging material to end up on our fishery product. All right, that's what we mean by the migration. We don't want it on it because we know the product itself, it has a high moisture content, right? And we don't want that to end up on it. Like, you know, we had some bad practice. Some people might wrap the fish in newspaper. We used to do that back in the day. Luckily, we moved away from that. So that paper itself with the moisture will migrate onto the product. And then you have the ink and all of that. So that's what I mean by migration. Taste and smell neutral. It mustn't impart any odor or even taste that is not natural from the product. Well, barrier to moisture and carbon dioxide in terms of, and light and all that to prevent, that's for the quality. The product visibility, we want to refer to that as the marketing appeal. You want to see the product. You want to say, yes, that's good. That's how we inspect it. We pick it up. We look at it. We can see the fish inside. It's not blocked out. It's clear, right? We can see the color because we would have covered how to identify good quality seafood. So you want to use those skills now, right? And producers know that. So they know, some consumers know what they're looking for. and packaging will allow that. Machinability and sealant properties in terms of the, well, the design part of it. The labeling part is important. For example, you may want to vacuum seal, but you have a flat label, and normally when the air is extracted, the label may become contorted and not visible, it's not readable, the barcode is messed up. I'm sure many times you might have gone to the grocery, it may not be a seafood product, but the label, you can hardly read the information on the label. When the cashiers need to cash it, the barcode is not flat and can't read, and that keeps us back. So all those are characteristics. In some cases, it must be recyclable, and also price is another factor. So there are different levels of packaging, as I would have made an example before. So we have the primary package, we have the secondary package, we have the tertiary package, and the quaternary package. Now from the photos, you can draw an example, but let's go through it quickly here. So in terms of a primary package, that is normally the last piece of packaging between the product and the consumer. It's meant to remain with the product until it is purchased and removed right before the product is used. The secondary packaging, the purpose of this packaging is it holds together the individual units of the good or of the product. So it's like a large box of products, what is intended for individual sale. And you can barely see it there, but it's like all these packs of ready to cook shrimp, battered shrimp there. It's in this ribbed cardboard box, and all they do is just remove the top and put it in the freezer. And the customer, like yourself, will just open the fridge and take one for individual purchase. We have tertiary package. This is where the pallets of the product itself are loaded and packed, shrink wrapped, and put into containers or trucks or warehouses, and is usually moved before it reaches the customer. So the quaternary package now. This type of packaging is used to facilitate the handling of the tertiary package, right? So it will be like a refrigerated container, a more metal container, shipping container, and it holds many tertiary packages. It holds a lot of pallets, right? And it's a intermodal transport. And most of these containers are designed where you can control the temperature and humidity, even gases inside the container as well, in terms of agri-related products, like bananas and so. All right, so that it remains green until it reaches where it's going, for that example. In terms of fishery, we will know, you can see that this is a cold storage freezer. It's a reefer, as we call it, a reefer, and it's for transport or frozen fish. It normally achieves temperatures of about negative 25, negative 13. So all the different levels of packages is to get the product from the production line to the consumer, and represents a different scale of packaging. But there are different types of packaging material, as you would have seen or you would have noticed in the grocery store. There's paper, and paperboard. We have cellophane. We have tins, plastic, glass bottles, even wood like crates, right? And I would have just narrowed these down in terms of what is specific to our industry. So these are here are some examples of the paper and board used in the packaging, right? So you have some dried fish in a paper, completely sealed. We have in big bags on the top left, right? A little more bulky. We have some individual packages, and you can see with the cod and the salmon and the haddock. Now this look like newsprint, but as we would explore later on in the marketing part, all this is part of the attractiveness of the packaging, right? So they have this kind of print that people use in terms of when they serving food, mostly in the restaurant business. We have the fish in the green and white packaging with the window that you can see the fillets. You have your fresh fish box. So this have even the paper or the paper board have qualities as the one above. It could be lined, and you can actually move or ship or distribute, transport your fresh fish, right, to your consumer, and you don't have to fear about leakage. All this was designed and tested for that. Sorry. I just want to go through the advantages of the paper on a paper board. It's low cost, low mass. It is firm, it's stiff, and it has great printability. As you can see, every package there has some information on it, and it's clear, right? The only downside is that paper sensitive to moisture on the outside, and as I mentioned earlier, in terms of the characteristics, you can have possible migration if the package do become wet. So we go on to plastics. So in terms of, we would like to talk about the LDHP and the HGP bags. Normally we use to protect from oxygen and moisture and vapor loss and light penetration. You will see the plastic, mostly plastic bags is for frozen products, right? As you can see with the salmon and the frozen, even patties, and even some fresh product, they sleeve in the trays and have it on display. The advantages here is that plastic is very diverse in terms of its application. It's a very available. It's cheap. It's just like paper, low mass, light. You can see through. It's clear, and it has great sealability. And as well, as I mentioned before, remember the machinability and the sealability properties. All right, as part of it. On the downside, plastic, it is permeable to gases and vapors. Also, plastic has a degree of migration attached to it. So let's talk about metals or tins or cannings. So we know canning is a method of food preservation, and normally packed in aluminum or metal containers and sealed tight. It goes through a process of pasteurization where heat is applied to kill bacteria that may cause spoilage and make the contents unsafe for consumption. We have our regular fish, sardines, and our mackerels, of course, the tunas, right? Some advantages of tins is that we know the food is safe to eat because of the canning process and the pasteurization aspect. Canning allows food to be available due to the sturdy packaging. It has long shelf life. Doesn't require any special storage like chilled or frozen, right? Regular ambient room temperature is good. And a wide range of products can be preserved. The application is wider than the paper or the plastic I mentioned before. On the downside or disadvantage is that we can't see the product. So there's no visibility. It is heavier, right? It is more costly, and there's a possibility of corrosion occurring, as you can see in the bottom left of the screen. Some corrosion there, and that could undermine the packaging, which is the metal, and the package, which is the food itself. We have this example here is polystyrene, as we call it styrofoam, right? So polystyrene is the synthetic material or polymer, all right, made from styrene, polystyrene. It can be solid or foamed in texture. It's hard, but it's brittle, and it's relatively inexpensive. All right, it can be extruded as well. It could be boxes, it could be trays, but it's an approved food contact material. Okay, and it's very good in terms of usage for transportation. All right, there isn't any migration issues in terms of the polystyrene. It's neutral to smell, very, very lightweight, and as we will know, our Styrotest coolers, and the properties of the polystyrene is that it keeps the product cold, which means that it can keep fish fresher longer. All right. So in the example, they said that we have the tray on the left-hand side, and the fish is neatly packed, head up, tail down, sideways, and it's wrapped in a film in a polystyrene tray. Labeling, you can see the product, and it's attractive. On the right-hand side, we have some big cod loins there, being ready to be shipped off. So it's packaged in a polystyrene box. It's covered with a light film. Picture there, but a frozen gel pack will be placed in that box and enclosed, and then shipped off to its final destination. And that is one of the advantages there. It's maintenance of the temperature is very good. Well, the disadvantages is that it's a bit more expensive than the regular packaging. It is brittle, it's hard but brittle, so it's fragile, and unfortunately, it's non-biodegradable. It's not recyclable. Well, moving on to some more modern fish packing methods that we will see for more high-end products. We have MAP, or modified atmosphere packaging. We have vacuum packaging, and we have a very interesting one called intelligent packaging. So what is MAP packaging? This is where the product is enclosed in a package, like a tray or so, and the atmosphere inside the package is modified so that the internal atmosphere surrounding the product, the fishery product, is optimal in terms of preserving quality. It retards biological growth and any type of deteriorative enzymes or anything like that, or chemical processes. So the atmosphere inside is composed of CO2, oxygen, and nitrogen. So all these retard the natural enzymes and microbes in the container. And there are recommended mixtures for this type of packaging in terms of what type of product. For example, you might have a ratio of gas, 3 parts gas to 1 part fish. So it's a scientific and innovative approach to packaging to keep the product longer. It's also they have mixtures for fatty fish.
Keegan,
Yes,
sorry to interrupt your presentation, and I hope I don't interrupt your flow.
no
If
problem.
somebody have their participants list exhibited, I don't know if that's you, and it's smack dab in the middle of your presentation.
I am not seeing anything.
Okay, somebody.
That's probably I don't
Is it-
know. I am not seeing.
I apologize, my lord, that was me. Listen, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. My apologies.
That's okay. I'm not seeing anything here, so I don't know if it was just on your machine. Okay, so yeah, so there are gas mixtures for this type of packaging for fatty fish, lean fish, shellfish, smoked fish, even, right? And we have different examples on the screen there. You see the machinery that it's set in. So there are 4 packages down, the fish inside. It will close down, very similar to vacuum pack, which we will reach to in a while. And it will exert the gas in there and seal the fish off. So we have some high value tuna steaks there. We have some other mackerel steaks that look like. And we have a little diagram down here explaining what it is. So you use conventional packaging, but the with modern research, with the controlled atmosphere inside, all right, in 3 easy steps. So the advantages of this type of packaging is that you get a way longer shelf life. The seller itself can ensure product quality. So also following a longer shelf life, you have an increased product availability, you have less waste, so therefore you have reduced cost, it's less labor intensive. It's also attractive, leak proof and robust. Some disadvantages is the obvious, it's a bit more expensive. It's a bulkier type of packaging, and this type of packaging must be kept at 0 degrees throughout distribution. So it requires a special, not a special, but it requires that type of storage, right? So, for example, I may be walking through the aisle in the grocery, and you will see this in like the middle aisle, this display in the waist high freezers or chillers. And so when you look over, you can see the package down inside here. All right, that way you will mostly find those. And in my experience, it's mostly the more high-end fish, different types of shrimp, and some different special cuts of seafood. And also other types of meat as well. But so we move on to vacuum packaging. It involves the removal of the air from the package and the application of a hermetic seal at the end. So the air removal creates a vacuum inside the package, and it removes all the oxygen in the package, thereby minimizing deteriorative actions and oxidations and aerobic growth of bacteria and so forth. This type of vacuum packaging is normally used for long-term storage, and also if you want the product to have a longer shelf life. All right. Some So the advantage is, well, it's a good barrier to water and oxygen. Well, due to the extraction of the oxygen, it inhibits or retards growth of bacteria, aerobic bacteria that is, and limits of some oxidation. All right, and it maintains the odor and the flavor of the seafood in question. That's why you may see very simple example. You might find your salted fish in regular plastic packaging, but you might find your smoked fish in vacuum packaging. That just for reference. So in terms of that type of packaging to keep the odor and the flavor contained, right, is using smoked products. So we have an example of a vacuum sealer there. This is a small one, right? You have a product vacuum seal there, and I showed a smoked product, a smoked tuna, and we have a little infographic there just for reference. And so all what I mentioned before just now, the barriers and the inhibit growth, all those are advantages. Disadvantages are like it's more costly due to equipment and the packaging itself. It requires a vacuum pack bag, a vacuum seal bag, special bag, different sizes. There's a special thickness and so forth, specific to the machine. The equipment itself, as you can see, is quite bulky. It is heavy. The bags itself creates some level of waste. So there's no reusability of the bag itself. It's vacuum sealed. You take a scissors, you cut it, you dump it. So it produces waste. All right. And it does requires refrigeration. So we move on to this interesting type of packaging called intelligent packaging. So as the word describes, it's intelligent. It carries out some intelligent functions. It can sense, it can detect, it can record, it can trace, can even communicate things that are happening with your product. All right. So, for example, there are temperature indicators that are applied to the labels, and these labels changes color depending on the different conditions or the quality as the fish changes, and there are like text indicating what the color changes to tell you how good the product is. There are leak indicators applied on the inside, and these also change color based on the presence or absence of certain gases. So in terms of the permeability, if it's letting in gases or if it's letting in water. There's also a quality indicator, right, to monitor the contents of the fish itself. And in terms of if the quality is deteriorating, and it uses the changes in temperature and also changes in the pH of the fish, because we know in fish spoilage, as the fish goes bad, the pH of the fish drops, right? It changes. So some advantages of this type of packaging is reliable. It provides information on the condition of the fish or fish products. It can trace or detect abuse in the cold chain. There's some reduction in food loss as you apply more of the technology, and it enhances the quality and the food aspect part of seafood based on the different indicators and monitors. The disadvantage, of course, is the cost. What does this package cost? It's probably costly, different indicators inside, outside, right? Type of packaging. You could have possible migration from these said indicators. It's not non-recyclable, and the technology itself may not be so easily understood by the regular consumer. They may not have that consumer education inherent within the target group or the purchasers. So here, I just wanted to display some simple equipment in packaging that regular packaging materials that we would have covered that I use here. So we have our vacuum sealer, top left hand corner. We have the vacuum seal bags, different sizes. We have our tray sealer. We have different kinds, different sizes, and we have our impulse sealer or heat sealer, which is for regular plastic bags. And the tray sealer uses the polystyrene tray or the styrofoam tray covered with plastic or the cellophane covering. So this table here just pretty sums up in terms of the packaging materials and what to be used for the different types of fishery products. We have from live fish. You could use containers, the polystyrene foam containers, and so forth. You have fresh fish, you can use the same, or you can use paper boxes. All right, you can use the polyethylene bags, as mentioned, and heat seal it. Dried fish, and we go down. So it packed in certain bags. All right, and secured with some twine. Frozen fish, we have all the different types and weights. What is used, you can use the boxes, you can use the LDP or the AGP bags, the different types of bags depending on the type of product. All right, or you can use the both. You can use the bags and the boxes to have more protection and increased shelf life, and so forth, depending maybe on how long the transportation will be, how far it's going, and so forth, right? And we just want to touch on labeling here, because at the end of when you package your product, you have to label your product, and label should be placed in as much as possible the middle of the package, and it should contain the information stated on the slide. Want to know what type of product it is, the name of the product, whether it be steaks, fillets, your expiry date, packaging date. You must have your weight, a sell-by date, some contact information, of course, the ingredients, if it's a processed product, and some nutritional information. All these are regulations by law that is required for labeling. So briefly, I'll just go through what these items mean. So let's say the expiry date, after this, once this date is posted on the product, it means that after this date, the manufacturer cannot guarantee the safety or the quality of the product. All right. We have the package date. This is more used as a guide to determine quality status of the product. So normally you will look and see when was it packaged. Was it, so you're reaching the grocery store, you want to know, oh, this was packaged today. So so it's fresh, versus, oh, this was packaged 2 days ago, I don't want to buy this. All right. We have, well, the weight, of course, right? You want to know what we're paying for, and that's personal information. The weight per kg should commensurate with the price of the product. We have a sell-by date. This actually tells the retailer how long the product should be on display for sale. This is also a guide to the retailer. All right. The package date is a guide for the consumer. The sell-by date is a guide to the retailer. So know how long the package has been out and if to pull the item from the display. All right. So it tells the age of the product. Processor information, whether it's be locally processed, well, who processes it, if it's a reputable, or if it's just processed for or and distributed by, if it's processed, let's for example, it's processed out of country, you know, and then imported. So it must say that, and well, the ingredients so that consumers can be guided, whether it's be um, you know, may contain ingredients that can cause allergic reactions. So you want to take that in consideration in terms of the also religious and cultural aspects. Well, nutritional content. We want to know the protein, the sodium, magnesium, all these good things. All right. Here we just have an example of how our perfect packaging would be, and it have a lot of information in it, even the vessel name. So some of the requirements may differ between country, but this is just an example of all the possible information that can be contained on a package. All right, vessel name, producer, supplier. You even have your species, which we don't really see often. How we should store it, right? Production method, gear. That's a lot of information there, which is valuable to us, and the consumer. All right. We have some. I just have an example here in terms of I went to the grocery store and I picked up a fish product, and just wanted to make sure that what it had there. But for example, it even have regulations or requirements for the size of your logo on the package. So all these things have standards, all right, which we should consider anytime we're picking up a fishery product or any product, as a matter of fact. So I want to move on to the storage. So we all know seafood storage requires proper, handling, storage, preparation, all that to maintain quality. All right, and fresh or even processed fish undergo a period of storage prior to being sold. Okay, so typically the storage is more than likely is at the processing plant or at the fish market, where it's being held until it reaches the consumer. Okay. So the importance of storage is to maintain the quality and the wholesomeness of the product, nutritional status, reduce spoilage. The storage increases availability. You can hold the product longer. So yeah, you always have. So you don't have to sell off your fish at at a bidding price or lower price that you would like to. And it also assists so that you can get higher profit margins for the fishes itself. So these items here affect quality during storage. So in terms of the type of product, like the form of the product, whether it be whole, fillets, etc., moisture content of the fish itself, the storage facility, how long it's in storage, of course, and sanitation is a big one, and the controllable but yet not controllable factors like temperature, humidity, etc. So you want to touch on the specific types of storage. Now we go from chill, frozen, and even dry storage. So when we say chill, we're talking about the chilling of the fish in ice. So we use the ice to lower the temperature of the fish to near freezing, all right, 1 degree to 0 degrees, all right. So and ice is used as a means of heat removal, right? So there are different types of how to chill the fish. So you can super chill the fish in a slurry where the fish temperature is brought down just below 0, right? Before it actually freezes, it is like around -1, -2 degrees. And super chill fish has a great shelf life of about 2 to 3 weeks, maybe. All right, and it exceeds that of regular stored fish in a cooler by 10 to 15 days. So when you super chill your fish, it stays pretty long. It's a common practice on vessels that go out to sea, the larger vessels, like your trawlers and your let me say your industrial and semi-industrial trawlers, vessels, sorry. So the fish is chilled by, well, ice. It can be chilled by cold air, immersed in recirculating seawater or chilled seawater, or even by dry ice, liquid nitrogen, or other refrigerants. So icing of the fish is used as a method of preservation immediately after capture. It's still considered to be the best way to maintain the quality of your catch and retain its market value. We know ice has a very large cooling capacity. It also prevents dehydration by keeping the fish moist, and the melt water washes away bacteria from the skin, and it is still the cheapest means of cooling your fish. So there are 4 main types of ice that is used: flake ice, tube ice, block ice, or crushed ice. So your choice of ice is determined by its cooling capacity and the space that you have. So block ice occupies less space and has a very efficient cooling capacity. Large crushed ice makes less contact, but it also melts very rapidly. If the ice is crushed too coarse, it can bruise the fish, which will decrease the value of the fish. Flake ice cools the most rapidly, but it also melts the most rapidly. So each type of ice has its advantages and disadvantages. So some factors to consider when icing fish: your size and type of fish, the time in terms of from harvest and maintaining the cold chain, what is the temperature of the fish, whether it was in ice before or it was not in ice, so it will carry a higher temperature and you will need to use more ice. And we can just see some of the fish here, how it's ice. So using the flake ice, it's packaged, and it just to support in terms of the packaging and how the styrofoam is one of the better packaging to keep the fish cool. So effective fish icing includes using good quality ice, as mentioned in one of the other modules. In terms of water, your water is also used to make ice. So that is important in terms of the quality of your ice. The quality of your water must be clean, potable water. Okay, always store your ice in clean, dedicated containers. All right, avoid large chunk of ice for your fish. Of course, always try to ice your fish immediately after harvest. There's a ratio of ice, 1 kilogram of ice to 1 kg of fish. That will vary based on the temperature. Ice your fish in alternative layers in your storage box, and ensure that the box is or can drain your meltwater, whether they have to tilt the box, open the cork, all right, and so forth. It have some boxes with small holes, etc., so they can allow the water to drain away. So you have your fish, you catch your processing, make sure it's clean. You have your good clean fish here, and you ice it. Ice fish, ice fish, ice fish with a layer of ice on top. Now you might see cube ice there, and it goes back to the first one in terms of the cube ice. It doesn't melt very fast. It's very popular. Fishers like to use it. Well, at least here in Trinidad, it doesn't melt very fast, and it actually chills the fish because chills the fish rapidly and maintains because of the water itself is the cool water chills the fish, right? And the ice takes long to melt. So you have a lot of cooling taking place over a long period of time. So how much ice is required also depends on the insulative qualities of your box itself. The cooling the box itself. So that means that your insulative box is also draws coolness in the box. So we have a kind of common term that we use here in terms of charging up the box. So if you have a cooler that hasn't been used in a while, right, the insulative properties could deteriorate in the box because that's how the boxes are made. They made from the HDPE plastic, and it is filled with the insulative material, and actually the coolness keeps that material active per se in terms of the insulative qualities of the box. So the box itself gets cool, and then the coolness is contained in the box. The type of ice, of course, the ambient temperature of the area of the environment, right, will determine the amount of ice, and also the size of the fish, or the intrinsic qualities of the fish, the thickness of the fish, the size of the fish. All right, so we just have here, you need to balance how much fish you use and how much ice you use based on those requirements. So just to reinforce the quality control aspect of it, as we always try to do in the fishery, I just placed that table here, evaluating fresh fish, and it's just to reiterate the eye, skin, odor, gills, flesh, how we check it based on that, or based on your type of storage. So now we'll move on to freezing, principles of freezing, or the freezing technology. So we know that fish is made up of mostly water. The diagram, 65 to 80% of water, along with other minerals and nutrients and proteins. So there are certain principles of freezing. But let's say, what is freezing? Freezing is the conversion of a liquid to a solid. So we would like to convert the fish to a frozen fish. So we have to convert the fish, the percentage of the fish, 65 to 80% of that fish into a solid. All right. So when we freeze fish, it changes the state of the water in the fridge, liquid to solid, but it maintains all the other intrinsic qualities like your proteins and your minerals and your fats of the fish itself. That does not change. So freezing is one of the most important preservation methods for fish. There are different types of freezing, the main ones being plate freezing, spray freezing, and of course, blast freezing, mostly common. The advantages of freezing is that the flesh is changed very little, right? And there's very minimal loss of quality when you freeze the fish. The storage life is that greater than chilled for many months, a few months, 6 to 8 months, which is good for keeping holding fish when in case the species are seasonal and so forth, or if you have large quantities of catch that you don't have ready sale for. Some disadvantages are that you could have potential quality changes even under freezing if you don't store the fish properly in the freezer. Freezing is more expensive than icing due to like the equipment and the power to operate the freezer. Frozen fish is less attractive to customers, and that is a huge disadvantage in terms of the marketability. And frozen fish is it's hard to distinguish if the fish, let's say, if is of good quality until it has been thawed. All right, so freezing involves the removal of heat, and that quantity of heat is measured in per unit mass. It's referred to as the latent heat of fusion, and this latent heat is constant. So heat is removed, and heat is measured in calories, and it is based on how much heat must be removed to lower the temperature by 1 degree before freezing. So that's known as the amount of heat to be removed before freezing is known as your specific heat. So the water in the fish, that large amount of water is converted into ice crystals, and this process retards the bacterial activity, which is what you will call the preservation in terms of the freezing. Important to know that the rate at which the heat is removed influences your freezing or that stage in the freezing, your crystal formation, and the overall quality of the product. The fish flesh, contains different substances in the minerals and nutrients, which depresses or lowers the freezing point. So the fish could freeze at different temperatures. So it will freeze below 0, -1 to 2 to -2 degrees Celsius. And here I have a diagram here illustrating the freezing process. So we start from at the top. It starts from 4 degrees, which should be your killed fish, and that is the stages. So your fish is is chilled, all right, and then put to freeze. So the chilling removes the latent heat, hopefully to about -1 degrees. And at this point, you can see the slope of the curve, it drops rapidly. So that is from your the use of your ice or your chiller, right? Because we do have chillers, right? Which is the cold air. Then you have your phase where the liquid changes solid at -1 to between -1 -2, right? And it drops to, and it continues to go down, go down to -5, right? That is where the water is concentrated, depressing the freezing point. And between that drop below 0 to the -5, as you can see, it's the longest period in terms of time. So it's between 1 to 2.5 hours, 1 to 2 hours. All right. Ideally, okay. So the last stage is where you have your what you call your thermal arrest period. At this period, you see it's quite sharp and comes down. The temperature reduction at this stage is at its slowest, and this is where you have your crystal formation is at its highest. So you have something called your zone of maximum crystallization. So basically, the fish is freezing, right? That's the balance of the water. So they have different percentages of how the fish is frozen at different temperatures. So when we start at your -1 degrees, when you begin the freezing process, the fish is about 8 to 10% of the fish is frozen, which is the water. So we're referring to the water in the fish. All right, then we go down to -5. And at that stage, about 77 to 80% of the fish is frozen. And as it begins to drop and the freezing, more freezing happens to -20 degrees, -20 degrees Celsius, you have the balance of the fish frozen, which is 10 to 12%. So overall, 90% of the fish is frozen. And we could dive a little deeper into the freezing process of the fish. So you have your pre-freezing, freezing and the thermal arrest, which we will discuss a little more here with reference to the diagram side here. So the fish is gutted and stored in ice prior to freezing, of course, to reduce spoilage, proper handling, as we know, and also to facilitate the rapid cooling. Another important factor of icing your fish and the proper handling is that it reduces the amount of time for freezing to begin because of the temperature that it's brought down to. And that's what we call how long the fish takes to freeze, the residence of time in the freezer. All right. And that's also influenced by the thickness or the nature of the product, the intrinsic value, thickness, type of species. All right. Well, that will define the final cooling temperature prior to freezing. So the aim is to have a short thermal arrest period, because therefore you want your fish to freeze in the shortest possible time as possible. And this is achieved through, well, your proper chilling and the correct type of freezer, which lowers the internal temperature of the fish to -20 degrees as fast as possible. And when I say as fast as possible, I mean in no more than 2 to 3 hours. Here we have a diagram just explain the storage of frozen fish products. So we have freezing as a method of storage, and it's measured in the number of months. And there are two different freezing temperatures: lean fish, fillets, smoked, fatty, even battered and breaded products, and some crustaceans and mollusks. So we have the amount of months they want it frozen, and going all up to 8 months at -18. But you can see storage of frozen seafood, fish or seafood, can go as long as 2 years, all right, for the processed products, right? And as much as a year and a half or 18 months or 2 years for your lean fish, all right? But it must be stored under commercial freezing temperature, which is -30 degrees. Here's just another type of table here showing a more practical storage life of fish under the different temperature conditions. It's similar, but it's just showing you a wider scale in terms of the temperature difference and how much months you can achieve once you have proper frozen storage. So a matter of 5 degrees or 7 degrees can be a huge difference, as we can see in the first example, from 8 months to 18 months, right? A whole 7 degrees, you can keep a fish for 10 months more. We just go through different types of freezers in a bit of a detail. Air blast freezers, this is where they have a continuous flow of cold air, ice cold air, below freezing point, and it's passed over the products on trays in a sealed container. It flows around the products, taking away the latent heat. We have contact freezers, or plate freezers, as it's sometimes called. The upper and lower is in direct contact with the plates, and a refrigerant is recirculated between those plates. So this plate freezing shortens the freezing time and is faster than the air blast freezer because of the contact. You have your spray freezing. The product is directly immersed in a liquid refrigerant, or it is sprayed with it. And the product is instantly more or less frozen. You have use of liquid nitrogen, which is nearly -200 degrees Celsius and can completely freeze most products in a few minutes, but it is expensive. Here we have how we evaluate our frozen fish by the appearance, odor, packaging, and even the glaze of the product. So good quality must be clean, have a bit of a gloss, and of course it should be fully frozen. It shouldn't have any type of odor, because of the oxidation. Could be the packaging could have gone bad, right, or not packaged or stored properly. And we have the requirements for the packaging there, which we covered earlier: tight fitting, prevent loss of moisture, so forth. So, and if the fish itself has a glaze, it should be intact and not cracked and so forth, showing any type of abuse. Right. So here we just have a comparative table in terms of our different types of chilled and frozen storage. So chilling is more short term, freezing is long term. We chill to 0 degrees, we can freeze up to -30. Chilling is cheaper, freezing is expensive. Chilling keeps you the freshness of the fish, the appearance, looking fresh. Freezing If poorly done, you can lose that quality. Low tech, one is like mid tech. Um, low skills, one is high skill required, and one is portable and the other one is fixed. So you want to touch on dried fish storage a bit, because we know in terms of our value-added products, we're looking at what else we can do with the fish. And so if you want to dry a fish, or dry the fish carcass, or make your fish powder, and so you must know how you should store it, right? So this must be a designated room, containerized, as you can see in the picture there, only for dried product. They may have some technology to control the humidity inside of the unit. As you can see on the door there, if you look closely, there's a device there. These types of storage is normally at a processing plant or even at a market. So there's some general tips in terms of storage, whether it be ice or frozen. Of course, sanitation is of high priority. Even for yourself, your containers, free from any chemicals, and so store your fresh fish and processed fish separately. In terms of your storage, you should have a system of like a FIFO system. So first in, first out, so you know that you always have the freshest fish in storage. Your storage must be protected from the elements and pests. We have to look at the surface contacts, that it's free from any residual chemicals or so. It should be stored or stacked on pallets, not directly on the floor. And in terms of frozen storage, there's a way to pack the container that you can allow proper airflow around the product, whether it be on a pallet with spaces between the boxes or on a shelving unit inside the freezer, or it could be stacked at from high to medium to low. It's just to ensure that there's good airflow in the container. And last but not least, in terms of your cold or your frozen storage, you want to ensure that you have a steady supply of electricity, as this can affect the wholesomeness of your product. So we want to dive into transportation, the last part of the module here, and tie everything together. So after you know package and label, and your fish moves into storage, we have transportation or your distribution, right? And this is your system or your method of moving your products from your processing plant or your market to your end customer or your end user. All right. These types of the products, it can be live fish, or fresh or frozen, any product. And the most important ways to transport fish will be over land, as in trucks, air, or sea. Over the years, we have seen some improved fish transport in terms of types of trucks and types of systems, the location, even the ships and the airplanes, of how they store it and maintain the cold chain, and the use of equipment, cool boxes, insulated refrigerated trucks. It have ice on board. It have independent freezers and so forth, in terms of the preservation of the fish during transport. Here we have some more examples here of your types of vehicles. We have your insulated transport with your curtains to prevent the cold air from leaving, from things from entering your cold storage, right? And drastically dropping the temperature inside. That will affect that big fluctuation there, can cause thawing. You have live fish transport, right? With oxygen tanks and so forth. You want above as well. You have a built-in storage of seawater, and you transport your crustaceans and your mollusks inside there, keep them alive. And this type of transport has a lot of advantages to our fishers, right? And to enjoy the quality seafood and the wholesomeness and the food safety, and therefore ultimately your price of your seafood. So yeah, we just wanted to show in terms of the transport, which is the most used transport for regular fishers here, and which is overland in trucks with large insulated bins. All right. And the vehicles used in this type of transportation is really important. Okay, so also they should have a regular sanitary plan. They should be maintained in a clean manner. You must wash them and keep them clean, sanitize them. Their use should be dedicated to moving your fishery products only, right? Not animals or anything like that, right? Some that could leave bacteria or microbes and contaminate. So you have to wash your boxes, you wash your vehicle, you wash your tires, because the tires they are what is in direct contact with the ground. It can cause cross-contamination even between processing plants, all right? And that's it. So we wrap up there with transportation of fishery products, and this brings us to the end of our module 3, where we covered packaging, storage, icing and freezing, and transportation of fishery products. So now we would like to open the floor to anyone at this time. If you have any questions, if you want to share any experiences, if you want some clarification on anything that any one of the topics, now is the time. Nadine? Hi, Nadine.
Hi, Keegan. Good night. I
Good night.
especially like this slide. Of course, I always like this slide where you give the information about the degrees of the skin level or the eye, what you look for when the fish is deteriorating. But I like tonight this slide with the labeling. I was reading, actually, I think it was on the FAO website. They had some information on this topic, and I was reading through some of it, and it spoke about food wasting, like wasting food, like regular food that you consume daily, and how to prevent that. I think was the idea, but it's stated that some mistakes we make when we waste food, like things that we know, but we just sometimes still do it, we over purchase, especially when we do perishables and then the things spoil on us. And then, but one of them that caught my attention personally was the expiration date and the when you produce it. So they were explaining that some people confuse it, and then you go and throw away some things because you believe it expired. Because if you notice some of the labels on the can, they only have a date. You can't read it, you don't have any, some of them do clearly state it was produced or it expires on this, but some of them just have some numbers and a date. And you don't know if that was when it was manufactured or or when it's expiring. And why that was important for me is because during COVID, my mom received a lot of free groceries and she gave them to me. So I had like a whole lot. And then I was like, but why am I sending there expired things? But then when I realized it not say expire, so I confused. And then like I would throw it out because I said, me and the people in the giveaway expired thing, and I don't want to eat anything that is expired. So that's an important in food on a whole, and then we're not used to that in fish. You know, we just sell with fish. We have to figure out if it's fresh based on some of the characteristics you shared. Yeah. So that's my comment there.
Yeah. Thank you about thank you for that experience, because even in the groceries, in terms of what you were referring to, there are some practices, the package date is an important one, where so it is a guide for us. So we have the impression that this fish, okay, let's say it's packaged today, so we assume it was caught and processed yesterday, right? So it really gives us an impression that yes, okay, this is nice fresh fish, and we could purchase it, and it should be good in proper chilled storage until I'm ready to use it for maybe another 2 days, and so, all right. What I see sometimes happening is that if the fresh fish it does not sell in time, they they move it to the freezer, which has a different storage time as well, and a longer storage time. Or they turn it into a seasoned product, and place it in the seasoned product chiller. So they change the product type as well. But all these are indicators of the quality. We have Ryan raise his hand. Good night, Ryan.
Good evening, Keegan. Good evening, participant. Your presentation was very interesting. I have some issues that I would like to share or add in. First of all I didn't hear that, but maybe you mentioned it. All the products you use for packaging must be food graded material. And on the package information, because you have I mentioned you have package like in bulk, like in the carton boxes, and packaging like in pong, etc. I think there is a different you have different information on both of packaging. Correct me if I'm wrong. On the labeling, that is what I saw on the small, like on the plastic package. There are certain information that you could find on it. Well, I didn't see. I think it should be also added that like the product, who can use it? Is it for infants or only for adults? And on which temperature you can store the product. Some are frozen, but it was not mentioned on the labeling. You mentioned something about I didn't get that really. Melting ice wash away the bacterial. I cannot find. I don't understand that part. How is that melting ice gonna wash out the bacterial?
Mm-hmm.
Certain products you have to keep frozen. Depends on which what is what the market wants. Perhaps like if they want steak, you have to get the fish at a certain temperature to be able to make the steak. And you mentioned also, I saw the when you store the products in a like in a storage room. As about the pellets, I don't think it's reasonable to use wooden pellets. I prefer plastic pellets because the wooden pellets uh, is a possibility of contamination. Yeah, that were some of my questions.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. You raised quite a number of points there. Let's see if I could address all of them correctly. So the first one was the remind me, was the first point? Okay, so let's go backwards. So your pallets, yes, there are some crates in terms of the storage, and some people still use crates. There is concern with them, but it's just it could be a dried product because it still store feed on it. All right, it could just be dried, but the use of plastic pallets are more common now, but it is more expensive and it's more sanitary. All right, and it would avoid the contamination from the wooden aspect of it. All right. The fish with respect to how you freeze it to get the market form on the consumers. Yes, that's important. In terms of the, for example, if it's have to be frozen or kept fresh, all that will be influenced in the type of packaging and storage. What else, Ryan? Ryan?
Ice wash away bacteria.
Right, yes, the ice now. So we cover the ice in terms of the uses of ice and how icing is important. So when, in terms of fresh fish, I've handled quite an amount of fresh fish. So when you ice the fish and the ice melts and you have the drip water, normally in these boxes carry a cork at the bottom of the box, right? And they normally open the cork so that as the coolness drops and the ice melts, it drains away and washes away a certain amount of bacteria from the fish. And you can see that in your drip water. All right, the water is normally kind of slimy, a little brown, and has some remnants of, stuff in it. All right, so it has a function. And I mentioned the melting in terms of the type of ice you use, in terms of the block ice, which doesn't melt as fast. All right, but it has a large cooling capacity. It stays, so the water, it doesn't be in direct contact with the fish like the flake ice, which can cool the fish very fast, right? But has a higher mass, but it melts quickly versus your block ice, which still cools the fish rapidly, but doesn't melt as fast and is not as bulky. All right, so the fishes itself will tend to gravitate towards the block ice. All right. But the flake ice actually cools the fish the most rapidly. Okay. But you'll use more flake ice versus block ice. All right. Nadine, you have your next point there?
Yes,
The first one?
labeling,
The first one.
the labeling,
The
how we
labeling.
use it, and the temperature to store it.
Right. Well, yes. The first example of the labeling where you showed all of the possible information that could be on the label, right? Stated the temp, whether it being stored frozen, it should be stored frozen. So labeling, yes, you are correct. Could have that information in whether keep chilled, keep in refrigerator, store frozen, keep product frozen, or store or in refrigerator after opening, that type of thing. All right. And who should use it? I think that's maybe a bit subjective. I've never seen it. If kids or adults could utilize the product, I've never seen it. So, but I will look out for it, or maybe do some.
Can I fit in? Is, for example, like if you have fillet fish, right? And
Yes.
you have like the steak. The steaks you may find fish bone inside.
Correct.
So it's not good for an infant, like to give her that, knowing that there is bone inside that could injure her or him.
Okay. Yes. That's important information for the packaging, for the labeling, sorry, as well. It could be included. Is there anything else that you needed clarification on?
The package material, food
Or the
grade.
package? Yeah. I know you always bring up the food grade, and I just overlook it in terms of, I always think that what we are speaking of is definitely should be used is of a food grade, right?
Right.
That's why I kind of overlook that. My apologies. I think there's a second time, right? Thanks for that. All right, yeah, so it should be food grade. It's of a certain thickness. If it's chilled, it's non-drip, correct?
Yeah.
Right. It should be about it could be 3 millimeter, 4 millimeter thickness bags, right? And so forth. So yeah, yes, you're correct there. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Also.
I see. I think someone else has their hand up. Nadine, who was that? It quickly came off the screen.
I don't have any hands up.
Okay. Okay, no problem.
So do we have any more questions or comments on the topic?
I wanted to mention something also. This training is like for people to know how to process fish products to, I mean, like to export, right? And what I didn't hear, or what I think, because like how what Nadine mentioned about, she read something in on FDA. Every year FDA comes up with something new, and if we have to compete, then we have, if you don't go with the rules of them, it's a bit difficult to export. On the packaging information on the box, I think on the label you have to put also the Latin name of the species of the fish. I don't know if you all are aware of
Yes,
it.
that is true, because we have, right, and to answer you, Ryan, yeah, that is true. 'Cause we have, before that, when our aquaculture industry was trying to get off the ground, we were having stiff competition from the China imported tilapia fillets, right? But you know, there are certain concerns of China produced tilapia. So actually what they started to do was put the country of origin on the labeling. All right. So you will let the consumers know it's from there, and then it's their choice whether or not they purchase it or not. But these, to answer you, these modules were designed to deliver a very, very wide range of topics, um, from harvest um, to the final product to the consumer, across the to marketing, to the sale of the product, right? Um, for fishers or any stakeholder really. All right. Um, at a basic to intermediary level. All right. What you asking about in terms of the export requirements and that type of thing, um, that is something that I would consider um, a bit deeper. All right, and it may not be covered in this module, this set of module. All right. So, but seeing that you raise it, maybe the CNFO might consider holding some sessions that cover certain topics from the feedback at a deeper level, at a more advanced level. Okay, so that people could use the information and monetize certain activities that they would like to.
So I just want to jump in here and say that for the purposes of these modules is to sensitize the average fisher as to what are good practices and the surrounding principles around those practices from catch right up to marketing. So not so much geared towards the issue of exploitation at all, because that is a much broader and deeper, as Keegan indicated. And of course, if there's sufficient interest in particular areas, then we can do deep dives. But for the moment, this is really to build a keen awareness and sensitization on those good principles and the actual science about how we not only catch, but process, preserve, store, label, package, and market. So that is the basic objective here. Thanks.
Thank you, Mitch.
So we have two hands up, Keegan. So
Yeah.
you can.
I'll take one. Hi, good night.
Hi, good night.
Yes, good night.
This is Peter Regis.
Night.
I just want to, this session has been very, very important and instrumental. And what it does, it covers a lot of areas up to the level of export, because a lot of things that the basic things that you mentioned is basically the requirements to meet to the export market. And I'm so happy that you touched on all those areas. The only difference there is that, as you said, when it comes to the export market, you have to have a Food and Drug Administration certificate to export to the US in particular, but other than that, everything else are the basic requirements for processing throughout the landscape. And once your facility is HACCP, up to HACCP standard, you don't have nothing to worry about. As we know, cleanliness, health, and the necessary requirements that follow any healthy place is what is important. So I just want to thank you for the whole session, and it has been an endorsement of what I have known in the past and what I hope that our fishers, can just continue to follow these principles and guidelines. And if we do so, we won't have a problem. Thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Regis.
Okay, so we have Max next,
Max.
Keegan, but I want to make a point following on to Peter before we move. And the point is, yes, these are some of the things that lead towards the exporting arena. But I want to make it very clear that we also want to follow these principles when we sell our products to our own people. This is critical. We want to guarantee them a good product as well. So not just thinking of export, but thinking about what we sell our people is very important. So Max, you have the floor.
Good night, Mitch. Good night, everybody. Good night, Keegan.
Good night.
I just want to add to transportation. We should avoid as much as possible using wood, like wooden or like boards and so into the, especially these canters that transport fish, because wood tend to, it's not easily clean, and you have germs and bacteria that stick inside. You should avoid wood and avoid some types of fiberglass, which is now they're saying that it's cancerous. It causes cancer. So I did not see it in your presentation. The rest of it was pretty much thorough in that you covered a lot of stuff that we didn't know about. I'm actually a fish vendor, and I buy fish in large amounts, and I supply the major exporters in my country. And we use refrigerated trucks. And what we try to do too is avoid in the handling of the fish, avoid efficient.
And Max, we still have you?
Yes, that's it. The part
Okay.
with the avoid boards.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we were told by the authorities at the processing plant to avoid using wood. We used to get boards, divide our truck into compartments. You separate the various species.
Mm-hmm.
Now, yeah, they said that if you happen to use the boards, you put a metal plate over it, a
Right.
plain sheet, and you tack it over it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So the exporters or the processors actually they kind of determine or demand a certain standard, right? So
Yeah,
it's
they give,
actually
they give you a checklist that you have to comply
right.
with
Right.
when you enter when you enter the facility, beginning from the front gate. They have
Right.
sort like foot dip, and so you got to use proper gears, boots, and gongs, and everything.
Right.
Most of it we covered in the earlier presentations.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Max. That was very valuable to share. We have one another. We have one more, Nadine, or they're gone.
I don't
Don't see.
I don't see any other hand up, but
All right.
perhaps somebody else may want to speak, but I don't see any other hand up.
If anybody else would like to add or share, the floor is open.
I see Adrian's mic is unmuted, but we can't hear him.
Oh, no, I was just asked by the host to unmute my mic. I don't know if she was asking me to say something, but I don't think it's time yet.
Okay, no worries. So you don't need the
All
floor.
right.
Well, if there are no other questions or any other comments, then Nadine can probably start the process of wrapping up.
Yes, Nadine.
Keegan, we want to thank you very much for not only preparing the material, but for presenting it as well. So Nadine will take over from now and guide the closing process.
Okay. Thank you very much again.
Yes, thank you, Keegan. The wait was worth the while, I must say. So Adrian, you can close us off, and immediately after your last words, I will stop the recording, sir. So just close this session for us.
Okay, yeah, no problem, no worries. Thank you, Keegan, for such an in-depth presentation. It was very good, very informative, and I'm sure it would strengthen the knowledge base of a number of the people here present, because it was very good. We had 19 participants tonight, which is a good number, I think. Seem to be getting back into the road, and I look forward to seeing everyone on Thursday. So thank you again, Keegan, and thanks everyone for participating.